Hello, everybody. We'll get started in just a moment.
Hello, everyone.
All right, it is 5 o'clock. I like to start on time. So welcome, everybody. I'm Nicole from the VEX group, and I am joined by Mark, who is got his day job kind of pants on today, but he is also part of the VEX group as well on the events committee. So we're thrilled to have him in both roles today. Mark, welcome. And I'm turning this over to you. Looking forward to it.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I'm part of VEX with the events committee, so I thought it fitting that I talk about how to use board games with your staff as a staff building project. A little history about me: I work at Grounds for Sculpture, a 42-acre sculpture garden here in New Jersey. I've been here for about 7 years. In between semesters of teaching, I was a poetry major in college. They offered me a full-time management job there, so I took that and been with VEX for about 4 years now. My history with board games, growing up, I played Monopoly, I played Trouble, I played Mousetrap. I like the 3D aspect of that. I wasn't really into, Dungeons and Dragons or anything like that, some of these role-playing games that are out there. Did some video games growing up, and then I kind of stepped away from things. And then a few years ago, I had some friends invite me over. They were like, "Oh, we're having a game night." And I was like, "All right, I'll come over and play Monopoly." Sure. And they introduced me to this modern board game revolution that's going on right now. Modern board games are, in the past 20 years, have kind of exploded. There are new types of games out there, themes for everybody that go beyond like fantasy theme, but very strategic games, not just roll some dice, move your guy, and maybe you'll get lucky and win. Games where you have to make decisions, games where you have to work together in order to beat the game. And I learned about all those. And then last year during the pandemic, during quarantine, I started my own game collection and it started growing. And then when we came back to work, like most institutions, we came back to limited capacity. So, we were used to 2,500, 3,000 people coming in a day. We were having like 800 come in a day. So, my staff, we would welcome the people in. And we're a little kind of like, okay, this is a lot different from what it used to be. And I kind of brought a lot of the board games into work. Was doing things on breaks, was playing games throughout the day. And it became something that we really liked. And, now we do game nights after work together. We do games before and after trainings, and we do them on lunch breaks. And I'm just going to show you the different types of games that are out there and how you can kind of implement that maybe in your day-to-day with your staff. Just look at some notes here. And yeah, so I'm going to have a little presentation here. First, a little PowerPoint that kind of talks about the different types of games that are out there, the different types that I use anyway. It's not all of them, but most of them there. So I'll show that PowerPoint. And then as you can see on this table, I have a nice collection of games that I'm going to kind of show them off a little bit here and show you how we might use them with the staff. Let me bring this up. We'll share a little screen action. Right. I assume you guys can see this PowerPoint.
Yes, we're good.
All right. Move some things out of the way. So first, some advantages of playing with your staff. Board gaming, playing games with people, they create a sense of achievement when you're with them. When it feels like they accomplished something, it makes them feel good. Sometimes they might even accomplish it together. So again, it's that team building aspect that might come with it. They can create fun and memorable experiences. You might think, how can a board game do that? But there will be, sometimes when the staff reflects on games that we have played and maybe guesses that people had towards something, and it just built the relationship that we had with our staff here. Staff began to get involved. There were staff I didn't even know who were into gaming, and when they realized that I was bringing games in and had a collection under my desk there, they were like, "Oh, I'm going to bring in some of mine," and they had some of their own games that they had gotten, and again, became a really involved experience. And then some games can also be themed around your institution. At the end of the presentation, when I show you the games, you can see some of the different types that are out there. And they could definitely kind of be a learning experience and can be related to what it is that you have at your museum or something like that. So some of the different types of games that we have out there, some little details, but I'm going to go into greater details of these later on. There's the co-op or escape room games, games that the staff has to work together to kind of complete. Some really good team building with that one. We've kind of all seen these escape rooms that we've gone to. They actually have escape rooms that you can bring into your home or into your institution and play with your staff and kind of emulate that experience. Social deduction games, that's good for large groups. That's usually where one person kind of stands out from the rest of the crew, and then the rest of the people have to figure out who that one person is. Really good with large groups of people. To the right down below that, we got some party games. We're going to see what games you can kind of play with like really large groups together and kind of bring into, really good for before trainings if you have a large crew for that kind of thing. And then the two-player verse, and I also have it could also be a solo type game. One-on-one games that are usually really quick, good during lunch breaks. The solo games can be played. Sometimes the staff member will come to my desk and ask to play a game, bring it back to the break room with them. And it only takes like 15, 20 minutes for them to do it. So here, when can we play games with our staff? If they have an hour-long lunch break, it takes them, 15, 20 minutes usually to eat their food. And then, people are usually sitting around talking about work. That always a little pet peeve of mine. If you're in your lunch break room, you don't talk about work. You need to step away from it and kind of separate your mind from it. So I would just bring in a game into the lunchroom and, play with staff sometimes and, totally take their mind off of things, and then they'd return refreshed and ready to go. Sometimes before a morning meeting, if it's a quick little 5-10 minute game, then it might work there. Or if you have a staff training session, you could say, hey, maybe arrive maybe an hour early, and you can play kind of a longer game there. After hours, before the pandemic, maybe we would go to like a restaurant or a bar together, kind of hang out, try and have like a staff thing. People don't necessarily want to go out anymore right now. They're looking to do things more in-house. So having a hosted game night at your institution is a great way to get everyone together and kind of hang out instead of being out at a place. And then the last one here, I kind of have it described, a casual figuring out game throughout the day. That's where maybe you set up the game in the morning, you have someone maybe do something with the game, and then the staff kind of look at it throughout the day, and at the end of the day, maybe they submit their answers to what they think it is. We're going to see some really good examples of that too. So here's some just kind of quotes here from, people who get things done. People have written books about how to, relax your mind and how you need to separate from things. The quote at the top there, the opportunity to step away from everything and take a break is something that shouldn't be squandered. And then there at the bottom, sometimes when we take a break, we may find that solutions then present themselves. When you're working on something and maybe thinking really hard about it for 2 or 3 hours with some staff, even like the behind the scenes office staff, sometimes you got to step away from a project, do something else, clear the mind. Maybe you can meditate, you could do that too. But I like to play games with them. Play games and then come back to it. And then usually that's when a lot of ideas kind of get done. Preparing for playing games with your staff or doing a game night, there is some preparation you have to do. I definitely wouldn't go into a game night with a brand new game unopened and saying, all right, we're going to play this right now. I definitely would have prepared in a variety of ways. So the first note I have up there, make sure you know how to play the game. There are videos online that give detailed rules about it. If you can play the game at home, perhaps with family or friends first, and then bring it into the staff, that could be something you do there. Sometimes I'll even, do a little mock game, me and an imaginary person, and just kind of do it myself as if we were playing against somebody, just to kind of get it going. Because there's nothing worse than having a game spread out on the table and not really knowing how it plays and flipping through the rule book, trying to find the right rules, can make for a little tedious situation or maybe a bad experience for it. So then I know, again, really know the game. Know things like how long does it take to play? Sometimes games are just 10, 15 minutes. A game could be an hour or two, depending on how complex it is. So if you know what that is and what it might take, most of them do have times on them. You've seen it takes like 30 minutes to play. I usually add like 10 or 15, especially if it's the first time playing it with people. A 30-minute game, I'll say, takes about 45 to an hour. So, and then even just explaining the game is the first time around might take a little bit of time. So another preparation you can do, sometimes the games work with your work situation and with your staff, but maybe you have to change them a little. You don't necessarily have to follow all the exact rules, but if you see how the game is played and you say, okay, if we play it this way instead, it'll be a more enjoyable experience, then that might work too. I'm going to show you some of the games on this table here, and I'll let you know, like, hey, I got rid of the whole rest of this game because these cards that have these funny sayings on them are the only important part. And that's what I use with my staff there. So sometimes you have to edit the game to work with your situation. And then make sure you pick that right place to play. Make sure it's in a place where everyone can be comfortable, maybe even a little secluded. If you're doing it in a break room, maybe you don't want other people walking in and out while you're playing. You want to make that time to be a relaxing time with the game. And if you're playing a game in the middle of an active break room, everybody who comes in is going to be like, what are you doing? What's going on? What are you playing? How do you play? What do you do? And then you have to stop everything to do that. So I make sure if, we're going to be playing a one-on-one game or something, maybe we'll go in like either a separate corner or another room, just kind of do it there. So. And some of the types of games. First one, co-op or escape room games. Really good with large groups or teams. Co-op games, they usually involve players having some kind of particular power. There might be 8 to 10 players to a team or something, and some of the players can maybe move some of the other players. Maybe another player can give another player more power or something like that. So that's kind of what the co-op games. Try to set limitations so one person isn't controlling the entire game. In the gaming industry, this is called an alpha gamer. An alpha gamer is someone who kind of takes over the setting of the game and tells everyone else how to move their game. That doesn't really make for a enjoyment for a co-op game. You got to maybe tell people like, all right, if it's not your turn, you don't get to say anything. And then when it's your turn, you get to move your piece, and maybe they only get to talk if they're like next to each other or something like that. But you have to be aware of those alpha gamers that are out there. The escape room games, they kind of range in size. I've seen them really small in the store and they go for about 20, 30 minutes. But I've also seen like huge box escape room games that's like 3 or 4 games in one. So you almost have to go from one room to the next to try and solve the puzzles to get out. And, that could take like a good hour or so as people are trying to solve the puzzle and get out of it. So 2-player or solo games I have here. These are great kind of shorter games, usually take about 15, 20 minutes, can be played on a short little lunch break or something like that. I find that they're a form of relaxation from a stressful workday. Solo games can be just as much fun as playing with another player. I'm going to show you a really good solo game on the table here, based around coffee and making coffee beans and collecting points. But it's something that some of my staff have really enjoyed playing. We'll just like kind of grab it from my desk and go and do a round real quick. And then we kind of have a little competition on who has the higher point thing going. So yeah, the 2-player solo games are out there too. And party games. These we've probably seen a little bit more out there. They're for really large groups. You know, sometimes party games can be up to 15 to 20 people at a time. You can separate your staff into teams with a lot of these to participate and play. And these can be really useful during those longer trainings to help break up the day, whether you have it in the middle of the training or before. Sometimes doing a game after training can be a little much. Everybody wants to kind of go home at that point. But if it works, then yeah, definitely have it afterwards too. These social deduction games. If you are any kind of gamer out there, you've probably seen this with werewolves. That's one of the more popular ones that came out. That's one where one person is a werewolf in the group, and then there's one person who's a narrator, tells this story of the townspeople trying to find who the werewolf is among the people, and all the players have to kind of guess. But there are also other types of social deduction games, some that I'll show over here. And yeah, 1 or 2 of the people are kind of hidden players, and everyone else has to try and figure out. So either the hidden players win by getting no one to guess them, or the group wins by revealing who the hidden players are. All right. And then a phrase guessing game. This is kind of similar to like a win, lose, or draw type of game. You know, you get an object or something on a card. You have to try and show that to the other player somehow, and they have to try and guess it. But I'm going to go a little bit beyond the win, lose, or draw type game and show you some other games that are out there that have you do other things. This is the one that can kind of be played in the beginning of the day. You have the one staff member pick a card. They kind of do something with how they have to get people to guess it. And then by the end of the day, people can reveal it. You know, I had it in like a little break room. And then whenever anyone took a break, they would go in, they would see like the table set up with the game. They'd go over, and they'd try and figure out what that original staff member had, try to get them to guess. And then the end of the day, I would have everyone just kind of put their guesses out before we left and see if they got it or not. Good for a group activity also during training or a lunch break if you have a couple people taking a break at the same time there. So. Just some notes from my experience with bringing games to the staff. Like I said before, I can't emphasize enough, try and play the games before bringing them to a work group. Play them at home with family or friends. So that way you are aware of a lot of the subtleties of the game. Consider the difficulty of a game and decide whether it's appropriate for your group and situation. You know, I kind of got excited in the beginning when I was sharing some games with staff and brought in some kind of difficult games, and it was a little bit of turnoff for them because, you know, not that they weren't ready or it was hard, but they just didn't enjoy the experience as much. Now some of them have become more intense gamers and play the more difficult ones. But again, that's something you just need to be aware of. Sometimes games just won't work with a group. There have been games that worked at home, worked with my gaming group, with my friends, worked with family. And then I brought them into work and it was just like, that was all right. It just didn't have the same effect that I was looking for, something like that. And then a last note, you know, sometimes a good puzzle can work too, not just board gaming and modern board gaming. We would bring in like 500-piece puzzles. I think now we sometimes even do up to 1,000 pieces. And we'll put the puzzle out in our break room and, you know, try and get them to complete the puzzle within like the week or a couple of days or something. So puzzles can be really fun too for staff and all that. And then a great source for board game reviews. So this website called the Dice Tower, they have a YouTube channel. And usually you can search out almost any board. I mean, they put out like 3 or 4 board game reviews a week, maybe even like 6 or 7. they are like on top of it. They have great videos. I'm going to try and emulate some of that when I show you these board games here. But the Dice Tower, check them out. Tom Vassell is the head of it. And you can put most any board game title into it and put the Dice Tower in, and you will find a review for it. And more than likely, it's accurate as far as the difficulty of the game, the components of it, whether or not they enjoyed it compared to other games. So a really good source to go to beyond here. So check out the Dice Tower. Slides go. That's where I got all these game slides from. All right. I'm going to stop this sharing here. And Nicole, I think you're going to activate this camera over here to be the main camera that people see.
There you go.
All right, nice. All right, so I'm going to show off some of these games from these examples that we saw. These two here. This first one, the Fox and the Forest Duet. This is a really nice two-player game. It's actually got, a lot of these games, I'm just going to nerd out on games for you guys if you don't mind. Such beautiful artwork. These are like Victorian, like kind of pictures here. Let me make sure I get that on the camera. Almost Victorian themed pictures, paintings that kind of go with them. And this is a really good two-player game that you can play with staff. It only takes like 10, 15 minutes. This one I found in Target, actually, the Fox and the Forest. And yeah, really good quick game to play. And yeah, not too bad. Coffee Roaster, I kind of mentioned this in the presentation. This is like a one-player game. It's only one player. It's not even like 1 through 4. The player sets up a coffee roaster setup. They try and collect certain beans. They try and make sure they don't burn too many. And hopefully by the end, they collect enough points that show that, they kind of rack up here. Comes with a really nice bag and should be showing off all this stuff. But so, yeah, there's that one. Going to kind of move this guy over a little bit here. So this one here, Chronicles of Crime. This is a really unique type of board game. This is a co-op game where you are a police department trying to solve a crime. And you get a board here that you put clues on. But actually what works with this game is there is an iPad app that goes with it. And we have a small theater here at Grounds for Sculpture. So I would set up the theater with the iPad app on the main screen. And what it is that you do as you play, each of these things with these different characters on here, they all have like those little barcode scanner things, and you put those on there, and it kind of talks about the different characters. Those are the people ones, but we also have stuff and different types of evidence and things that happen. And when you do the scan, it kind of takes the story. So, I'll have the staff sitting in the room and they'll be looking at the room through the iPad app. There's actually an image that comes up and you have to search the room and look for clues. And then they're like, oh, there's a typewriter with a note in it. Let's look at the piece of paper. And they look at it and hopefully it helps them like solve that crime together. So it's a fun one. Come over here to this, and I'm actually gonna flip over to the other side of the table. This is the type of game that we would play, kind of like a win, lose, or draw type game. The first one here is String-a-ma-jig. So this is one I would set up with the staff in the morning. And what they do is, first they pick a card, and it's got some different words on it on here. And, one of them says what, balloon? And you take this piece of string and you create what might be a balloon. You kind of create the figure. We would have them use string or something to try and tie it together. And they would just make it and have it sit there throughout the day. And then people would come over and try and guess it. And kind of like a win, lose, or draw type of game, but with string. I'm not very good at this one because the string just falls apart in my hands. This next one was a huge hit, though. This one called Concept. This one is a really fun game where, again, you get a card with some clues on it. And so we might have here tiger. I think it's upside down, but you see the word tiger there. And then there's this like massive game board, and each of these things are particular images towards it. And you might say, all right, tiger, so I'm going to put it on the orange one and the black one. And I'm going to put this exclamation point on the animal figure. And, you know, tigers can really hurt people, so I'm going to put it on the death icon. And then you give certain clues out on all these images. And the staff would come over and they'd be like, okay, I have to figure out what this is. And, you know, you might give a clue like a person, place, or thing type thing, but then they have to guess it based on the images that are here. So Concept, a really good game. This was one of the first ones that I had brought to my staff that they all really liked. Bring it back to the next level of gaming. $5.25, we're making great timing. All right, so these are some of the more party type games. Office Decathlon is something that, again, I think I found in Target or somewhere. And it's similar if you see the TV show The Office, there was the Office Olympics. So I think this kind of stole that kind of idea and made its own thing out of it. I think it even mentions it once or twice, but you know, I kind of brought this into work. I wasn't sure what was happening. And I had a fellow staff member who went above and beyond and made like office Olympic events for us and got a lot of ideas from this game. You know, really just use the cards that were in this thing to come up. Look at all these different options you can do. And all these are like office games with paper clips, and we had like basketball going and stuff like that. And then, oh my gosh, she was great. She made like little videos of everybody winning. And it was just a really nice experience that kind of came out of it. And just from Little Office Olympics. We kind of did it for, I think it was like 3 or 4 weeks. We got really into it last year when we did this. But it was a really good experience and a really good like kind of team building thing. And then some of the last few games I have here, kind of the escape room games. This Exit one, this is a very popular one. You might see these in Barnes and Noble, and maybe they're in Target too, but Barnes and Noble has a lot of these. I think there's Exit, and I think there's one called Unlocked or something like that. But these games are, you know, you kind of picture yourself in a room. There's a little kind of story that goes along with it, and you kind of read that. This is definitely one I would recommend that you do at home first before you bring it to your staff, because it's good if there's a host narrator to kind of help the group along. You know, when you go to these escape rooms, there's usually someone who's on an intercom ready to help you out. You might want to be that person if you bring it to them. But you can see there's like, they give you this little decoder thing, and they give you some other things. I actually haven't opened this yet. So there's a whole deck of cards, and they give very specific instructions, you know, stop, do not open this deck of cards just yet. You have to do some other things first. So very good specific instructions that kind of go along with these. And like I said, this is one of the smaller boxes of the Exit. I have at the Mysterious Museum. I decided to theme it with our museum here. But they have boxes that are like pretty big and have 3 or 4 really good puzzles that kind of go with it. This is an example of another one. Neil Patrick Harris. Yes, that Neil Patrick Harris, he's a gamer. Doogie Howser, he made this game. It's called Game for One, but we had our staff kind of work together and do it. And it was a really fun game. I mean, this one is so simple with just deck of cards where it asks you certain questions and has you do certain tasks one at a time in order to solve the mystery. And our staff had a lot of fun with this one too. In fact, this one, we didn't destroy, you know, sometimes you have a game and it tells you to like rip things up and destroy parts. This one, we kind of kept everything intact because we wanted everyone else to have an experience with it. But don't open that black card. That's not till the end. So those were a lot. Oh, wait, I didn't even show these. What am I doing? Yeah. So these were the, this is the last group here, and then I'm going to show you some more themed games. This is the social deduction games. You know, where one person might have might be different from the others. A really good example is this Fake Artist, another Target or Barnes & Noble type game that we can find. Oh, there's even one in here already. So how this one works is everybody will get the clue as to what to draw. So I guess the clue here was to draw a turtle, right? So everyone gets the clue except for one person. One person doesn't know what's being drawn. And then everyone else has a different color marker and kind of starts drawing it. And if the one person can guess what's being drawn and not get figured out, then they win. But if the other characters kind of come along and they're like, yo, this guy has no idea that we're drawing a turtle, then they become the fake artist of New York and they get figured out. So really good social deduction game. This is Chameleon, another Target game too. This is one where everyone gets a clue about something. So maybe the clue is like cheese or something like that. So, you know, people will say words that kind of go with what that clue is. Someone might say pizza, someone might say mozzarella, but then someone might say, oh, I don't know, what would be a wrong one with cheese if you said pizza and mozzarella? Maybe like restaurant, Italian restaurant. And they're like, I don't think cheese goes with Italian restaurant necessarily. And they'll be the chameleon and they might get figured out. So one person won't know what's going on. And then the last one from this group. Some of you may have played Cards Against Humanity. Definitely not an appropriate game for work. Cannot be played there, but Dixit is kind of a similar game to that. Another game that has just really beautiful cards. Look at some of these images on here. Like the artwork for the artist is labeled on the cover. It's so nice. But this is the type of game where everybody will have a set of cards. Someone might pick, you know, some kind of word or phrase that goes with their card, you know, so they might say like, I don't know, cat dreams or something, and they might say something like that. And then everybody else puts out a card also that they think goes with cat dreams. And then the whole group has to figure out whose card was the guy who picked cat dreams, which one was theirs. So again, kind of social deduction where you're not sure whose card is whose and kind of going from there. So just like weird abstract drawings. This is a game called Dixit, and there's about 12 or 13 different expansions for this one. So if you do run out of these cards, you could definitely get more cards for this set. And yeah, you can just keep playing and never stop. And then the last thing I wanted to show was not specific games or anything like that, but just show you how many different themes of games there are out there that may fit for your institution or your museum or something. Sushi Go Party, not that you have a sushi restaurant or anything, but Sushi Go Party is another really good party game that's good with a large group of people. And everybody loves sushi, so that one. If you are in a museum or anything, the Atelier, might be upside down, but the Atelier, the painter's studio, is a really good one that you can get a group of people together to play. Perhaps you are working at a restaurant. We've got rival restaurants here, a pretty intense game about bartering and making recipes and things like that. And then the last two, one of my favorites, it's a very popular game right now. It's called Wingspan. But if you do work at a natural museum, I mean, every card in here has a fun fact about some birds, and is a really popular game in the modern board gaming industry right now, Wingspan. And then finishing off with this one, the museum game. This one's a little intense, but also really fun. What attracted me to this one, I'll just kind of put it out because I love showing them off. And if you like the simple show-offs of me with this game, definitely go to that Dice Tower one. They show off all the stuff with the games. So this one again has, you're trying to create a museum with different artifacts and all, and it actually has a lot of actual things that are in museums for people to see with, again, little fun facts at the bottom that just kind of make you learn about it as you go, and you kind of collect them as you go. I said this was the last one, but I lied. The one more that I want to show is one that I threw away the rest of the game because I didn't feel that it was working at all. This game was called the Idiom Game. And you might have seen, we played this yesterday a little bit. I kind of turned it into a PowerPoint presentation. So all of these cards have different little sayings on them. There it is. You know, fracture boogie, that's breakdance. Adobe vessel or abode vessel, houseboat. You know, literal words for certain sayings. And even like actual sayings, you know, sprint in favor of your mortal existence. That's run for your life. So I'll take this game, and I got rid of the rest of it, but I'll take the rest of these cards and I'll put them into a PowerPoint presentation, and before any kind of training or anything, I'll just have that up on the screen. And you know, when people are sitting there kind of awkward and don't really know what to do, you have that up on the screen and it instantly gives them something to do there. So it could be those cards, it could be any kind of trivia cards that you use, and kind of works well. So but those are all the games that I have on this table. Nicole, you could take me off of that, put me back on the main screen there. How am I doing? 5:35. Maybe ending a little early too. I don't know if you're still out there, Nicole.
I'm here. You're off.
Okay.
But you're off camera. There we go.
All right. So yeah, that was, I don't know, some of my collection, some of my ways that you could bring board gaming into the workplace. And yeah, if you do have any questions, you can always reach out to VEX and they can let you know how to reach me. I didn't have a slide with my email or anything on there. But
so, yeah, people are welcome to put Q&A in the chat. There's the Q&A box at the bottom as well. Or you can raise your hand and I can let you actually speak. Natalie is saying we played Illustrations as a fun game at the beginning of the team meeting and everybody loved it.
Yeah, Illustrations is a great one. Yeah, it's another good group one to have. So
Brian is asking what the name of that last card deck was, the Idiom.
It was called the Idiom Game.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, and Code Names, I saw someone put up there. Code Names is a really good one. Code Names is kind of similar to Dixit too, where you try to get people to guess the images that you might have. Another really good modern one.
Yes, this session has been recorded and we will get this out to everybody in about a week or so, once we get everything uploaded to YouTube. Jason is asking, any idea of a game that can be played throughout the day with not pulling the whole staff?
But not including the whole staff?
I think not pulling, I'm going to guess not pulling them off the floor or pulling them off the ship.
Yeah, that was kind of the one game that I had here with Concept, where in the very beginning of the day, I would have this board set up maybe in my office or you know, out in a break room or something. And then throughout the day, when the staff had breaks or something, you know, there would be clues put on here for some type of word that would be, you know, I had the word tiger before, so I had orange and black kind of on here. And then at the end of the day, everyone just kind of submitted what they thought their answers were. As a group, they figured it out, so.
Did you need any sort of buy-in to do all of this from the executive level?
Did I have to do a buy-in?
Did the rest of the staff buy into the gaming idea?
Oh,
like your director, was there any approvals that were needed, that kind of thing?
No, not necessarily. You know, over in guest services, we are a little bit separate from the behind the scenes people. So we kind of do our own thing in our department, I suppose. But they have definitely walked by and been like, what's going on over here with this? And I've seen it. But then they get into it. I do have, yeah, there have been some staff over on the office side, not as high up as the executive director here or anything, but definitely some of the other staff I've had during breaks play also. So.
Great. Any other questions for Mark? right, I am not seeing anything, but you can certainly get in touch with Mark through VEX. He is also at Grounds for Sculpture. And Mark, thank you so much for being here with us. I think he's putting his email in the chat.
Yeah, I'm gonna put the email in here. So. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, if anyone does have a question or finds a game out there they want to share, I'd definitely be happy to hear about it.
So thank you, Mark, and thank you everybody in all the attendees that are here with us. It's been a really good day, and I hope you all have found some nugget or multiple nuggets of information to enact or think about for your own institutions. So as we wrap up the sessions for the day, just note that, so today is the end of the sessions, but there is an event tonight, Battle Decks, which is an incredibly fun, you do not have to participate, but it is an incredibly fun time to come watch others kind of interpret museums that they're only finding out about as the slides come up. So it's a lot of fun. We hope to see you there. And if you do want to participate in Battle Decks, we want that too, because we need a few participants, but certainly come check it out. There are prizes. If you want to get more involved with VEX, we certainly welcome your participation. You can email info@visitorexperience.group, or there is more information on our website, vexgroup.org. I think that is all I have. So thank you all. Thank you, Mark. Thank you all the attendees for joining us and for an engaging couple days.
Awesome. Everyone at Battle Decks.
All right. I am going to close the meeting out.